10th, and I am calling the Select Board to order. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. With that, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Is there any public comment from, sorry, I have an echo. Is there any public comment from the public tonight? We have anyone on Zoom?
Nobody's hands up or on Zoom.
Okay. Any public comment from the board? Okay. So we can move on to our first scheduled meeting, which is 6:05 PM. It's a one-day liquor license application for Sam Pham Inc., DBA Lunenburg Diner, 324 Electric Ave. Is there anyone here for that application?
No, I don't think they were
Okay.
coming in, but you have everything.
We have everything we need?
I talked to her today, she was gonna be coming, so.
Oh,
Do we have everything we need for the
but
application?
we have everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have everything, it's for a,
Yeah, come to the mic. Sorry.
Bloomberg business.
I'll pull it up. Yep. Okay.
Do you want me to read the?
Can we hand her a mic?
Hold on. She's trying to pull it up. So it's for the Lunenburg Diner. They are having, with the Lunenburg Business Association, a mixed and mingle event on March 19th from 6 to 8 inside the diner. So they're looking for the one-day liquor for that.
It's going to be beer and wine, and they're not selling it. It's just all the local business owners get together once a year and have a little mix and mingle.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No.
Okay, with that, I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the one-day liquor license application for Sam Pham Inc., doing business as Lunenburg Diner at 324 Electric Avenue for March 19th, 2026, from 6 to, I lost it,
Oh,
8 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion passes. And now we have a joint meeting with the Board of Health and Timothy, I don't know how to say your last name, McClinchy, of the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project. So I believe the Board of Health needs to call their board to order.
Lunenburg Board of Health calls meeting to order at 6:10 PM.
You don't have to do a roll call because we're all here.
no, they don't have to do a roll call.
All right. Did you want to do an intro on what we're doing here?
Sure. So I had discussed with the board, I think a couple weeks ago now, the assessment for the mosquito control program, and brought that up in the context of our budgetary constraints, and discussed with the board whether or not this wanted to be something, the board was inclined to put this forward for consideration of the townspeople at town meeting, whether to remain in the program or not. And so the board had some questions that they wanted the Central Massachusetts Mosquito Control Project to answer, which they have answered, and I'm sure they're going to go over publicly as well, but those are in your meeting packet. And the Board of Health obviously has an interest, and the board had wanted to have a joint meeting between the Select Board and Board of Health to discuss that together. To be clear, I know that people have questioned what my personal position is on this. We are facing a budgetary shortfall of substance. This is not a small part of the budget, it's $100,000. And my position is that it is my feeling that the townspeople should be able to make a decision whether or not this is something that they would like to continue to participate in or not at that rate.
Great. And then with that, we can have Timothy, you guys can come up and do your presentation, and we can pull it up here, or
Melissa's gonna
gonna pull it up for us.
drive from there.
Yes, I'm ready to go. Should I do it from here?
Need to be at a microphone.
Okay.
I don't think we have one.
The podium?
Or take a
Yeah,
That's,
Do you have a remote? Do you have a remote?
no, I think,
Just have to signal me.
yeah, he can take one of those.
Well, I want to thank you all for allowing me to come down here tonight to tell you about our program. Specifically, I want to thank the Lunenburg Board of Health for inviting us. I'm always anxious to get out and talk to people about our program. My name is Timothy McGlinchey. I'm the Director of Central Mass Mosquito Control. I've worked at Central Mass for 34 years now, believe it or not. With me, I've brought Frank Cornine. He's our Director of Operations. He's also been our staff biologist. He's kind of wearing two hats right now. We're looking for a biologist, if anybody knows of anybody. But I'm here tonight to tell you a little bit about our program. It's just educational so that everybody has a clear understanding what our program is. And like I said, I really appreciate the opportunity to come down here and talk to you all.
oh, she did it, yeah.
All right, let me just tell you, everybody's wondering what Central Mass Mosquito Control is. We're a state agency. There's 11 mosquito districts throughout the state. We're the biggest. All mosquito control in Massachusetts is organized through Mass General Law 252. And each district has its own enabling legislation. We have our own. Central Mass was mosquito control was created in 1973. Lunenburg has been a member since 1980. The districts operate under the authority of the Mass State Reclamation Board and the Mosquito Control Board. This board is made up of a member from Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, Department of Conservation and Recreation, and DCR. And each individual mosquito district is overseen by a commission. Our commission is made up of a public health officer, a mayor of a city, and a civil engineer. So mosquito control is all about preventing risk. The most important part about preventing risk is surveillance and understanding the mosquito population that's out there. Frank Cornine has operated our surveillance program in his infancy. When he first came on, that was kind of his first task. I brought Frank along, so he's going to talk about the surveillance end of the program, and then I'm going to take back over from Frank after that.
All right, thank you, Tim. So a little bit of background, as a lot of you know, West Nile virus and Triple E are the two most common arboviruses here in Massachusetts. West Nile virus is actually a relatively new arbovirus to the U.S. It was first discovered in 1999 in New York City, the next year here in Massachusetts, and literally over the next few years traveled all the way across the rest of the country. Triple E tends to be a little more severe, and although Triple E has been around for, we have cases going back to the 1930s, it's been most common in Central Mass, but in the past couple years we have been noticing it kind of migrating itself into Central Mass. Next slide, please. So here's the arbovirus transmission cycle, and I wanted to show you all this because you might not realize that Triple E and West Nile virus are actually bird viruses. Okay, the bird population is actually the reservoir which contains West Nile virus and Triple E. So what will happen is, in the springtime, the bird populations will fly back up from the south, and that's where one of the mosquito species in Massachusetts that bites both birds, or bites only birds, will pick the virus up from one bird, pass it to another bird, pass it to another bird, so on and so forth, until the bird population is filled with either West Nile virus or Triple E. Then what will happen is we'll have a mosquito species that bites both birds and mammals, and they'll pick it up from the bird and transmit it to humans, horses. Another example would be a goat, like we had in town last year with West Nile virus. So that is basically the arbovirus transmission cycle. Now this differs very much from things like dengue, malaria, and Zika virus, where instead of the birds being the reservoir, humans are actually the reservoir. So mosquitoes can pick up those viruses from humans and transmit them to other humans. Next slide, please. So this next set of slides show the cases of Triple E in humans, horses, and other mammals, and how they've kind of migrated over the years. So what we have here is a map of all the cases before 1985. And you can see, as I was mentioning earlier, they all tended to be down in the southeast portion of the state. But if we click through the decades, next please, next, next, next. So that brings us up to present day. So you can see how originally, or for the longest time, starting in the 30s up to 1985, all those human, horses, and other mammal cases were again isolated down in the southeast portion of the state, but in recent years, they've basically migrated north and west in the state. Next slide. So this is going to be a more focused look into not the human cases, not the horse cases, not the other mammal cases, but actually the mosquitoes themselves. So here we have communities that have had positive mosquito pools. All right, so these are collections that have been made, mosquitoes tested, and whether or not they have been found with Eastern equine encephalitis. So the data doesn't go back to the 1930s, of course, but looking in the early 2000s, we have this, and then next, 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 next. So again, if you can go back just for a second. So as you can see, in the past 20 years of this mosquito data, Triple E has, just like the human cases, have increased here in central Massachusetts. And, you know, we're trying to figure out why is this happening. Well, there could be a couple things going on, right? Climate change, habitat change, the bird migrations could be changing. We're constantly getting new mosquito species in the state. Okay, a lot of invasive species, just like you've seen with Asian longhorn beetle and other invasives like that. We have invasive mosquito species that are coming into the state, and we've been working with the Department of Public Health to monitor all these invasive mosquito species that are now coming into the state. One that you might have heard about, Aedes albopictus, it's the tiger mosquito. I don't know if you've heard about the tiger mosquito before, but it's very much established down in New Jersey, but we're just starting to find it in the state. And the thing with the tiger mosquito is it's a very, very aggressive daytime biter. So most mosquito species here in the state tend to bite, evening, but this tiger mosquito, the Aedes albopictus, bites right in the middle of the day with bright sunlight and everything. So it's something we're, keeping our eyes out for and monitoring in the future here. Next. So I'm not sure, what everyone knows about mosquito biology, but they go through 4 stages of development: egg, larvae, pupa to adult. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but here in the state, we have over 50 different species of mosquitoes. All right, so we just don't have one kind of mosquito, we have over 50. And that number keeps going up with invasive species. But in the height of the summer, there are some mosquito species that can go from an egg all the way to an adult in 7 to 10 days. All right, it can happen really, really quick. Again, it depends on the species, but the important thing with the egg, larvae, pupa, and adult is we can try to reduce the population of mosquitoes in each one of these stages of development. Next. So at Central Mass Mosquito Control, we operate on what's called an IPM program, or Integrated Pest Management Program. And essentially what that is, it means that we don't just use one tool for the job, all right? As Tim said, we want to get arbovirus risk as low as we can, right? We want to reduce the public's exposure to arbovirus, and we do it through all these different tools in our toolbox. The first tool, and I think Tim mentioned this as well, is surveillance. This is essentially mosquito trapping, all right? We can go out, we set all mosquito traps up in all of our towns. I think here in Lunenburg, we have 13 different trap sites where we collect mosquitoes throughout the summer. This will tell us what the population's like out there. This will tell us how much virus is out there. The surveillance is what basically dictates the rest of our program. It's the backbone of our program. Next, we have public education, which of course this is a part of, but we also go to elementary schools. Second grade tends to do sections on insects, so it's great that we can integrate mosquito biology with their insect programs that they're doing already in class. We also do programs at senior centers, health fairs. Actually, our entomologist is up in Tewksbury tonight at a health fair. So again, that's public education. Next up, we have ditch maintenance. And one thing that I didn't mention in the life cycle, all mosquitoes need stagnant water. All right, I'm going to repeat this a bunch tonight, but all mosquitoes need stagnant water to lay their eggs and develop through larvae. Ditch maintenance is where we try to get that stagnant water to flow. If we can get a stagnant ditch to flow again, we're not going to have mosquitoes in that area right from the start. Larval control, if those eggs in that stagnant water do hatch, we're able to use biological products, bacterias, to treat those larvae so they don't eventually become human-biting adults. Source reduction, this program is essentially tire recycling. All right, I'm not sure if you realize, but mosquitoes love to lay eggs in empty tires, all right, discarded tires. They're black. Once they get water inside them, it's really hard to remove that water. They heat up. Mosquitoes just love laying eggs in discarded tires. So we can work with residents, we can work with towns to recycle those tires and remove those mosquito breeding habitats. Next up, beaver mitigation. We don't do any beaver trapping, but as you're probably well aware, beavers can get into an area, they can dam up a stream, cause a ton of flooding, and what does that produce? Stagnant water everywhere. And that stagnant water is where mosquitoes can lay their eggs and develop into adults. So we do have some methods to deal with that as well, which we'll get into a little bit later. Next, we have adult control, which is where we can go out in the summer months and do targeted adult control. Now, if we find virus like we did last year in town, we can coordinate with the Board of Health and maybe expand that targeted control to again reduce the risk of arbovirus to the public. And lastly, we have research and efficacy, which is where we basically check what we're doing and make sure it's working properly. Next. So getting into a little bit more detail about surveillance, again, this is the backbone of our program. We work very closely with the Department of Public Health in Boston, but we're going to set up mosquito traps in all of our towns throughout the summer. In fact, last year in all of our towns combined, we set over 1,400 traps. We're going to collect those traps. We're going to ID the mosquitoes by species because, again, we're not concerned about all 50 some odd species. We're only concerned about a couple because only a certain couple of mosquito species will carry virus. We're going to take those important mosquito species, send them into DPH. They're going to get tested. If they come back positive with EEE West Nile virus, we can set up more traps. We can see how expansive that virus outbreak is. And then again, we can work with the Board of Health to see what they would like us to do about it. Next. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this from up there, but these are 3 of the common traps that we use to collect mosquitoes. We have a couple more, but these are the main ones. So the first one, the gravid trap, this is actually where we use stagnant water against the mosquitoes. All right, because remember where I said stagnant water, the mosquitoes really need that to lay their eggs and to breed? Well, here we use it against them. So that dish pan right there is actually filled with hay-infused stagnant water. And the female mosquito will fly over to the stagnant water looking to lay her eggs, but instead of being able to lay her eggs, she actually gets sucked up and collected into that box right there. There's a fan inside and a battery. So again, that's how we can use stagnant water against the mosquitoes here. That next trap, the CDC light trap, it works somewhat similar. It's got a fan, it's got a battery, it's got a collection device, but we can use a light bulb to attract mosquitoes. Okay, mosquitoes, very much like other insects, are attracted to light, like moths, beetles, other insects. But what we actually do with this trap is we take that light bulb out and we use a tank of carbon dioxide gas, all right? Because mosquitoes are attracted to carbon dioxide gas. All right, this summer when you're outside, you're breathing in oxygen and you're exhaling carbon dioxide. And that's how mosquitoes can see you from far away. So we use that here against the mosquitoes. They'll see that carbon dioxide gas, fly over to the trap thinking they're going to bite something, get a blood meal, and instead they get collected through the fan and into that collection bag. The last trap I want to talk about today is resting boxes. And resting boxes are really quite simple trap. It's literally just a wooden box painted black on the outside, red on the inside, and mosquitoes, after they've taken a blood meal, they need to digest that blood and prepare to lay eggs. And for whatever reason, they like to do it in these resting boxes. So we can go and collect these mosquitoes from these boxes and, again, get them tested by the Department of Public Health in Boston for things like West Nile virus and EEE. Next. And I think now I'm going to pass it over back to Tim, and he's going to talk about some of our other programs.
Hey, thanks, Frank. So we're clear, we're talking about IPM. The first thing we talked about IPM was surveillance, which is kind of our pathway, kind of directs us on how we should approach the mosquito control. Another component of IPM is our ditch maintenance program. Like Frank was saying, our ditch maintenance program is to keep water flowing where possible. There's degraded ditch systems in town or throughout communities, or streams that need to be cleaned to make sure that the water continues to flow. The reason you don't want a ditch to get degraded is you don't want them to overflow, leaving floodplain and essentially shallow stagnant water. I just want to point out, mosquitoes need shallow stagnant water to breed. They can't breed in the middle of a lake. It has to be like 3 feet or less generally and get more shallow. So we've got a robust ditch maintenance program where we utilize low-impact tools, usually hand tools, shovels, rakes, to maintain streams and take care of stream maintenance when we can. But we also have an excavator for more extensive more extensive ditch maintenance work. We have a wetlands project scientist that works with us. She's a former conservation agent. She notifies conservation on the work that we do. We work with all property owners. We don't go in and just, this is the state coming through, we're going to do this work. No work is done until we get the property owner's permission. Sometimes it delays a job, often it delays a job, but we generally get everybody on board before we do any work. In 2025, we cleaned over 4,500 feet of ditch in Lunenburg and cleaned out 123 culverts. Obviously, the reason we clean culverts is to keep water moving across streets so it doesn't bunch up at the beginning of the culvert and flooding things out. Next slide, please. So this year we completed a job up on Electric Avenue with that was brought to our attention by Director William Bernard from the Highway DPW. There was actually 2 sections of this job. What was happening was after major water or storm events, this water was going everywhere, severe flooding. Next slide, please. So this wasn't a job that we could do simply with rakes and shovels. We ended up bringing our low-pressure excavator in. And it's important to know that we don't create any ditches or channels or anything like that. We stay to the historic contours of all streams. So with a ditch like this, there's a historic stream here, but it's filled with, there's a lot of sediment, not allowing the water to flow through. And when they get major water events, it was flooding the entire area. Next slide, please. This is the ditch after. We were able to go through the historic pattern, take out a lot of the organics, and get it up on site, and we were able to get some of it off site as well. Now, next slide. As I said, I wasn't at this job site recently, but you can see this is another section of that job. You can see the degradation of the ditch and the flood area outside. So we work to try to stay with the historic pattern of the stream and dredge out the ditch. Next slide, please. And there it is after. This is him continuing to work on it, and there's the final product. So that marks the elimination of a lot of mosquito breeding habitat. Next slide. The next part of our IPM program is our larval control. And like Frank was talking about, and I was talking about, there's a mosquito breed in shallow stagnant water, whether it be a woodland pool, a wetland, or an old wheelbarrow. But we have a larval control program that we survey the wetland and other habitat to monitor the development of mosquito larvae and perform control techniques to minimize the emergence of adult mosquitoes. Next slide, please. We use a bacterial product to control the mosquito larvae. Now, this is really kind of interesting, even if you're not into science or not much of a geek like I am. But you take corn cob. This bacteria is actually sprayed onto granules of corn cob. So we take the corn cob and it's distributed into the wetland or the woodland pool after we've identified mosquito breeding. The corn cob goes into the water with the bacteria on it. The bacteria comes off of the corn cob and into the water. Mosquito larvae see the bacteria and predate or eat that bacteria, and the bacteria reacts to the pH in the gullet of the mosquito larva and kills it. It's very interesting in the fact that it kills specifically mosquito larvae, some black fly, and some gnats, and maybe some smaller ones. So that's our main product that we use when we're controlling mosquito larvae. It's an organic formulation. It's been used for over 30 years in other sorts to other degrees, BT if you look it up. We also use some oils derived from plant extracts to when mosquitoes get into the larval stage, generally we may use this to treat tires. Next slide, please. Now, this is a technician. He's out in a wetland. He's taking a water sample. He identifies the mosquito larva. This is a fella spreading some of the bacteria, and also over here, a fellow using a backpack sprayer to do the same. Last year, we treated almost 15 acres throughout Lunenburg. That's thousands and thousands of mosquitoes. Next slide, please. To go on top of that for further larval control, we target the Culex mosquito. And the Culex mosquito is the prime vector of West Nile virus in the area. The catch basin program, again, uses a bacterial product that we put into the catch basins, and the Culex larvae in there will eat the bacteria, and it will knock them down. We ended up treating almost 1,500 basins in Lunenburg, there were some basins we didn't get to, but a lot of it was traffic or construction related. We're able to track all the basins that we do via GPS, so it gives us indications of when things were treated last. Next. This is a fellow applying said bacteria to the catch basin. Sometimes they walk. Sometimes they have somebody driving them, and we just put them out with somebody in the passenger side. We're looking at getting some bicycles for the more congested areas, not so much in Lunenburg, but it's a big problem in some of the cities like Lowell, Gardner, Fitchburg, not so much Leominster, but you get the idea. Some more of the congested areas, we're going to try out some bicycles to see if it might be easier to get around. What happens is you have double parking or whatever on the streets, and it's tough to get to them. So we're thinking if we get some bicycles out there, it might help. Again, we have summer positions if anybody's looking. Next slide. This is our abandoned pool program. We send out something to the town, generally the Board of Health each year. This is something we started a few years ago. What happens is, on occasion, there'll be an abandoned property in a neighborhood, and if they've got a pool back there, nobody's been paying attention to the pool. The health department or the resident can call us, and we'll come out and put some bacteria in the water and control the breeding for the remainder of the summer. Generally, we like to work with the Board of Health. If a resident was to call us and say there's an abandoned property on my street, can you come treat the pool? I would ask them to contact the Board of Health and have them contact us. We don't want to be walking onto somebody, it may not be abandoned for all I know. So we'd like to make contact with the Board of Health first, so we're just not trespassing. Next slide, please. Source reduction, Frank talked about a little bit. Source reduction is mosquitoes love tires because the nature, it's shallow water. Because of their black, they warm up. This is a program we started in 2010 off of grant money from a professional association. We now have some money in our operating budget. Since we started in 2010, we've recycled 53,000 tires in our member towns. We've recycled over 1,500 tires here in Lunenburg. I know residents use it when they want to get rid of tires. It's not we don't have the budget to do commercial cleanups or anything like that, but we have helped a couple farms do some cleanups here. And I forget the lady's name, but I did work with a lady. I thought she was on conservation. Somebody had dumped a whole bunch of tires down by a conservation path parking lot. We were able to go down there and clean them up with her. I'm sorry, I can't remember the lady's name. I think it was 2016. It was a while ago. It was kind of when we first started. But it's a very popular program. It's very proactive, like all these prior ones have been. Next slide, please. And Frank was talking about beaver mitigation, and it's actually, we've been doing some work with beaver mitigation for a little bit now, but we kind of don't know where it's going to take us, so it's not established. We do know that we like to be able to help the health departments if we can get rid of, open up some beaver dams, because like Frank was saying, it causes stagnation, shallow stagnation in many cases, and those tend out to be breeding areas. And sometimes, it blends into what the conservation agents are doing. They don't want to see water sneaking up on septic systems. So we've been able to supply manpower and in some cases our heavy equipment to go in and help break down beaver devices. And like Frank was saying, we have several licensed trappers on staff. We did that just so they could familiarize themselves with the beaver culture. We don't do any trapping. There's a component of getting rid of beavers that we don't want to, that isn't for us. Those are for other professionals. But we do have our staff do get their trapping license so they understand what's the right word, culture of the beaver. All right, next slide, please. This is a beaver deceiver that we put in. We've put in maybe 8 or 10 of these, working with the town. Generally, the town picked up the cost on the materials. We put it together and used the manpower. I don't specifically know the criteria for using these, but our wetland project coordinator is very adept. She's very smart. She guides us through when or not these are an option. Our foreman and some of the guys on staff are really up to beat on it as well. Next slide. Public education. Frank went through some of the things we did, but our staff is educated, and when you talk about IPM, you're talking about common sense things that you can do. So our staff is trained when they talk about mosquitoes to make sure they let homeowners know that just by common sense things they can reduce the mosquito population and the threat of disease in their own yard. That can be, like Frank was saying, when you get into the summer months and water warms up very rapidly, mosquitoes can go from egg to adult inside 7 days in some cases because the water gets so warm. In the spring, the water's so cold, it takes weeks for them to go from adult to actual flying adult. But in the summer, you don't have as much time because the evolution of it is, or the stages of it is much quicker during the summer months. But we always tell our staff when you're out in public to let residents know they can clean their gutters. I've seen gutters breed a ton of mosquitoes, believe it or not. They fill up with leaves and they hold water and they breed. I found that in the town of Natick, in a very built up urban area. We couldn't figure out, this lady had thousands of mosquitoes on her arborvitaes and we couldn't figure it out. And we were standing next to her garage and her garage just happened to be low and you could see the gutter and it was overflowing with leaf litter and water. And it was just like we ended up taking samples from the gutters were just loaded with mosquito larvae. So if you have a bird bath, I'll take my chance to educate your public right now. Change it every 7 to 10 days or you're going to have mosquitoes. If you have horses on your property and you have a bathtub for water, make sure you dump it and rinse the sides at least once every 7 to 10 days. I know that can be tougher, but you reduce the mosquitoes. And obviously, if you have a horse, your horse keeper, make sure your horses are vaccinated for both West Nile virus and Triple E. There is no human vaccine for Triple E. Next slide. Adult mosquito control. We do targeted adult spraying. This is what when most people, when they think of mosquito control, this is what they think of truck-mounted spraying. We've been going on a good amount of time. We do a lot of mosquito control other than just truck spraying. That's kind of one of the points I'm hoping to get through today. Next slide. The product we use for adult spraying is Edofenprox. It's considered a reduced risk pesticide by the EPA. It's not a residual product. When we're out spraying for mosquitoes, we're looking to spray the air column where mosquitoes are spraying. We're looking to knock down the older mosquitoes. Why? Because if the older mosquitoes have been in that cycle between bird population, older mosquitoes are going to have more of a chance to pick up virus and pass it on. The product we use has low toxicity to pets and humans. Next slide, please. All right. It's an active ingredient at a much more concentrated rate, Edofenprox, on many topical, and flea and tick products. Next slide. Exclusion. While we don't just break up the town and spray the north side one week, the south side the next week. We generally are only going in areas where we're getting complaints, either from residents or cities or towns want us to spray a park or where they've got games going on or something like that. We do a lot of work for, not so much here, but like 4-H clubs and stuff. But if you want your property excluded, you can sign up on MDAR. Now, everybody thinks mosquito control does spraying, so they're the ones in charge of exclusions, taking the exclusions. We're not the ones who take the exclusions. Mass Department of Agriculture takes them. But if you want your property excluded, please call us. We'll provide you the link. And I know some people don't, believe it or not, have access to links. You can mail it in. And if you call us, the first thing we're going to do is give MDAR the heads up. So what happens when we get an exclusion is that exclusion then goes into our GIS tablets. Into our tablets, it's put into the tablet which goes out with the spray trucks each night. So when the field technicians go out in the afternoon, our field technicians come in at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They have a route that they might be spraying that night if they're going to be doing any spraying. They generally drive that route to get an idea where the exclusion properties are. And then they go about and they do larval treatments the rest of the time. They're doing standing water or primarily a lot of catch basin activity during the summer as well. So when that night when they're out there spraying and they have the exclusions in their tablet, we can set it so like before they get like 300 feet or 200 feet, but whatever we put the setting on, they'll start getting a flashing noise and a beeping. So as they're approaching the no spray or the exclusion property, they have time to turn off their sprayer. Next slide, please. Research and efficacy. It's like Frank's saying, we do a lot of research, to make sure our products and our efforts are efficacious. We began a GIS program in 2007. Checks and balances, we want to make sure we have a resistance program. You've probably heard about pesticide resistance. We switch products or rotate products so that they don't build up. In Florida, they do extensive mosquito control. It would be uninhabitable in many sections of it without, but because they do so much spraying, they come across resistance from some of these pesticides. The fortunate part about us is that we live in New England, and it's eventually going to snow, right? I mean, so you're not spraying. Generally, you have a 3-month period where we're out there. It's tough for us to get back to a site 2 or 3 times. Never mind, like some of these sites in Florida, I suspect get sprayed much more. And we generally don't do wide area spraying. The only time we do wide area spraying is in the case where we have Triple E or West Nile virus, and we only do it after consultation with the Board of Health. We don't do anything on our own. In fact, the Mass Department of Public Health contacts the Board of Health, and then they contact us, and we know by the time we've contacted that Andrea's been contacted. So you guys are in good hands with Andrea. All right, next, this is just, I want to point this out. Sorry, go back. One interesting study we did was mosquito blood meal analysis, which basically took the blood meal out of the mosquitoes and kind of showed you what they were preying on, whether deer and percentage types. All right, next slide, please. Well, I guess that's it. I hope we didn't take up too much of your time, but I think we went a little longer than we had planned. We had gone over this a few hundred times, and we were trying to get it under 30 minutes. I think we exceeded that. But again, we want to thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate your consideration. And Andrea, thank you for the Board of Health for bringing us out to be able to talk to the selectmen, or select people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a really thorough and fantastic presentation. I am just going to note it is 6:50 and the select board has a hard stop at 7:15. So what I'm going to do is make my quick comments. I'll ask our board to make comments. I'll give it to you to make comments, but we just need to be mindful. I would love the public that's in the room to have a chance to make a comment. We do have a few things on our agenda before our tri-board meeting, so we have to be done by 6:15. 7:15. So I'm going to open it up to up here and then over to you guys. You already called it to order, right? Yeah. Yep. So I just want to say, I had no idea how much Central Mass Mosquito Control did aside from spraying. So I think this was immensely helpful, at least for me, to explain the cost. I mean, I think our share is around $91,000, a little bit more. And I took down some notes as you were talking. 4,500 feet of ditch maintenance, 123 culverts, that large excavation beaver flooding problem on Electric Ave, 14.43 acres of area treated for larvae, 1,475 catch basins, and 1,500 tires in Lunenburg alone in 1 year.
No. I'm sorry. The 1,500 tires were over since the inception of the tire program. It was not for a single year.
Everything, even if you take that off of it. The
Yes,
amount of
I think
work
everything
you are
else was
doing-
yearly.
I went back and was looking at your slides as you were
Yeah.
talking.
Take credit for something we didn't do.
I just think that is an incredible amount of work that I don't think, at least I didn't know that you were doing, and I have had my property sprayed forever. I do like that there's an ability for those that don't want their property to be sprayed to have an exclusion, but I think that those projects alone far exceed the value that we are getting here. So those are my comments, and I'll open it up to the board.
Do you want to go with?
Thank you very much. It was very informative. So you don't actually drive the town once or twice a year and spray the entire town? It's as
I can't remember ever doing that in Lunenburg since I'm pretty old. So when I started with mosquito control, that's kind of how they did it. We didn't do the whole town. They'd give us like a section where residents were complaining. There were sections of towns we didn't get. But we do not just go through the town. We go where the complaints are. If we have a section of town where we're not getting complaints, we're not doing any spraying there. Andre would know, and I'm pretty darn sure, we've never done a town-wide spraying in Lunenburg. I mean, unfortunately, there's a time and a place. Like, we had a human death, a town not too far from here, and the town right next to it, another human case, and it was relatively early, it was August, right? So the town was, and there was still a lot of virus activity and a lot of the summer to go. So even then, there was areas we couldn't spray. Residents didn't want to be sprayed, but the town did want us to try to do what we could. So yeah, but we've never gone and done the whole town.
So is it conceivable that if no resident actually complained, that there would be no spraying? Unless you...
That's not conceivable, that's true. But don't, I'm so worried, but just realize you will still be benefiting from mosquito control because of our surveillance work, our ditch maintenance, larval control. Larval control is huge. In our goal, we're not an extermination company. We do exterminate mosquitoes technically, but we're trying to stop major outbreaks, right? And we want to limit the risk of human exposure to mosquitoes. Yeah.
So if residents were particularly concerned with the spraying aspect of this, if they grouped up with their neighbors and put them as a block on the no spray list, it would be helpful to them?
Yeah, it would. And, it's unfortunately, there have been instances, we try to keep it, we don't want an adversarial relationship with anybody. If somebody doesn't want to be sprayed, we have no interest in spraying them because we know our program doesn't depend on spraying.
I think that's an important.
We have run into instances where there'll be some residents who don't want spraying. A neighbor will, somebody in the neighborhood will call up to be sprayed, and what will happen is the technician will come back that night and on his GPS tablet, he'll make a notification that he was unable to spray this area because of the no sprays. The resident will be notified the next morning that their property wasn't sprayed for one of several reasons. We list a whole bunch of reasons to try to take it out of somebody pointing fingers at neighbors, either water, temperature, whatever. And, but there are, the residents that sometimes don't get sprayed. Doesn't really often happen, but occasionally we're unable to help out spraying just because of the proximity to somebody who's an exclusion.
Thank you.
That's a bit long-winded, sorry.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it was very informative. I think it was great for the public to hear that. You spoke about Bill Bernard too, and even the Board of Health. How often do you communicate with Bill and the Board of Health throughout the year?
Well, it's not me who communicates with Bill Bernard. It's my wetlands project coordinator. She sets up all our water management work, especially when it comes to excavators, because there's so much legwork that has to be done for it. From dig safe to conservation concerns to what are the size and scope of being able to put dredge on the site. Like we can't put dredge in wetlands to a certain degree, but we can put them on uplands. So a lot of our work does come from the highway department. That's pretty much said through a lot of the towns. Just because we can offer services that often they don't have times to or the manpower to help out with. I mean, highway departments are, pretty busy as it goes, and then you throw some of this stuff on top of them. But there were other projects that we've done in town. It's just, I brought this one. I have some other ones that I brought just in case anybody had any questions. I guess I don't know these areas, but Gatsby Grounds, we did a job up on Gatsby Grounds as well. We've done some on Mass Ave, on in West Street. But I don't set up every one of these jobs. I'm there to support my professionals and provide them the sort of support they need when getting this work done.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. What is the formula that you use to determine how much a town is charged?
Okay. It's totally out of my hands. It's the Department of Revenue, okay? And it's a formula based on land mass and equalized evaluation. Maybe you guys understand. It's not something we decide. It's something that the state decides. If you have any questions on that, I knew there might be questions on this, and I kind of tried to do some background information. I'm gonna refer you to DOR. They'll be able to give you a more straightforward answer. I'm afraid I would say something wrong and point you in the wrong direction. I apologize for that.
Okay. My other question is, what happens if a person or animal is found to be infected with West Nile or Triple E and they're not a member of this program? Does that trigger anything with the state?
Like a community is not a member?
A community's not a member, but a case of West Nile or Triple E is found in that community.
Yeah, it's a good point. I guess it would depend on the virus and the other mosquito activity going around on it would kind of trigger on what would go. That would be better directed for the Mass Department of Public Health. I think it's a good question. I can't answer that.
You wouldn't be coming out, though. You would
Well,
only,
if it meant, if somebody had Triple E in another town and they weren't a member, and they let me bring a spray truck in there, even if they weren't a member, I would do it pronto.
appreciate that.
That's all I had, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So I'm sorry, we're rushing here a little bit. We got 6:58, so I'm going to turn it to you guys. We got about 15 more minutes.
Yeah, there's not going to be any comment from the Board of Health on it.
Okay.
Just a great presentation. And of course, Tim and Frank, we appreciate you coming out. We want to respect your time here tonight. And I'll just move for a motion to close our portion of the meeting.
Before you do that, I was just going
Yes.
to invite, if there's any public here that has any comments while we're having this discussion, if anyone, sure, if you want to just come out, give your name.
Hello, Teddy Doucette, 318 Howard Street. I came because I was going to say how strongly opposed to mosquito spraying I was. After that presentation, I've learned a lot about what you do other than spraying. And I do appreciate the amount of work that you do in disease prevention. I did want to bring up two concerns just with like the sprays that you do use with Zenovex. Is explicitly harmful to bees. And on your website for Zenovex, it mentions that foliar residues, dried foliar residues are not harmful to honeybees. And on the product label, it says it is highly toxic to bees when exposed to direct treatment. I understand that that's different from it being dried on the foliage. It just felt misleading reading that from your website and then going to the product label. Thank you.
Well, I think, I'm sorry, what's your name? Teddy, thanks for coming. Teddy makes a good point. Frank, make note of that. If he's confused about it, other people might be confused about it. There should be no confusion about it. Edofenprox is toxic to mosquitoes, but also to bees. And we recognize that. We work with endangered species program. There's certain areas of the state that of the town that are excluded because of endangered species, so we don't spray them. Or, well, there's actually a fairground near here that has some endangered species in it, and we can only spray in there certain times a year. But they've got massive amounts of mosquitoes right around, I don't want to get sidetracked, but we're able to do some work in there. But he's exactly right. Zenovex is toxic to bees. And we do everything we possibly can to lower our impact on bees. And one of the things we're doing, Teddy, is we don't indiscriminately spray the town anymore. We go to areas where we have concerns. The most important thing we do is we don't do any spraying prior to dusk when bees are foraging. After dusk, the majority of bees have made their way back to their hives. I'm not a bee professional, but we're doing our due diligence to do whatever we can, the best we can, to reduce our impact on the bee population. I understand some people's objection to that, and just all I can tell you is that we spray specifically at dusk to reduce any impact on the bee population, which is very different than what you might see from commercial applicators.
Okay, I'm just going to make one comment. For anyone that is on Zoom, if you've joined for the tri-board meeting, you feel free to stay, but you can log off. We will be opening a new Zoom meeting at 7:30 when the tri-board starts. Is there any other questions in the room for the mosquito control? Okay, well, with that, thank you so much. That was really informative, and we'll follow up if we have anything else, but I think that was great, and it sounds like, a lot of other people in the room also got some good education.
Well, we appreciate the invite to come out and tell you about our program. Unfortunately, it's probably a reflection on us that we should probably get out to health departments more and let them know exactly more, the public know. I mean, Andrea knew about it, but
Yeah.
I guess everybody else didn't. So thank you, Andrea, for setting this up for us. Teddy, if you have a second, can we talk? Yes. Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Great. Anything else from the board? If not, you can close your meeting.
No, nothing else on the board. Looking for a motion to close the Board of Health meeting at 7:02. Let's close.
Motion to close the meeting.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
you.
thank you, guys. Have a good night. We're just going to take a quick minute while people clear out of the room, those that are leaving. All right.
Aye.
To the microphone.
She's
We
just-
can't hear you. Can you just go to that microphone?
Before I go, I'm sorry. My name is Nita. I am from the Lunenburg Diner. I would like to just apologize for being late earlier.
No worries at all. We totally understand.
And thank you
Everything
so
was-
much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you
Have a
for
good
staying.
night.
You're all set. We approved it. Thank you. So yeah, okay. Just those in the room, we are going to try to finish our meeting if we can keep our voices down. Folks in the back, if you guys could keep your voices down while we are finishing our meeting. All right, next on our agenda, appointments, ratifications, and resignations. We would like to acknowledge the resignation of Chris St. Germain from the Conservation Commission. I know Chris personally. I know he has been a dedicated town volunteer for a long time, and I thank him for his service. And the town manager's report. Do we have a town manager's report this evening?
You just have a very brief oral report. The board members are aware of this. But to the public, we have had a substantial leak at the TC Passios building on Monday. It was in the area of the decommissioned building, decommissioned portion of the building. Thankfully, the school department did move out of that section of the building when they did, because it was absolutely impacting school department offices and they would have been flooded. So that the flooding is substantial. Following that, we already had a meeting pre-scheduled with the food pantry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can. So we did have a pre-scheduled meeting with the food pantry for 11, and the food pantry is going to be coming, I believe, before this body to have some discussions next week about some preliminary thoughts on temporary locations. But the TCP building, I'm glad we're working towards decommissioning the building in its entirety.
Okay.
I think we should go over some of the warrants changed.
Okay.
For draft, yeah. I don't know if anybody wants to talk budget before.
This one or this one?
Well, if anybody wants anything before we go into the tri.
Okay, sorry, I'm just kind of looking at our agenda and feeling out how we're going to fade this out with our tri-board meeting. Does anyone have anything in particular they want to talk about under our new business item of discussion of FY27 budget before we enter into our tri-board meeting? Nope. Okay. Nobody else here? No, okay. Old business, is there anything on the warrant articles for 2026 annual town meeting that we should be discussing this evening?
Yes, so you have what I'm calling a draft that you can take home. It's not a draft of the warrant. This is a draft of a document. I'm being very clear that inclusion of something on this article does not mean that this body has voted to put something on the warrant. It's just a draft of what we've received in. They are numbered by, actually they're lettered for identification purposes. We've talked about many of these, but I just want to highlight a few. If you want to look at this sheet, it might be easier. D, Economic Development Committee Revolving Fund. That would be setting up a new revolving fund for the Economic Development Committee to take in receipts and to be allowed to expend out of that fund. The Technology Revolving Fund, there's a language change there that goes with the change of the land use director, so it's just a title change. You now have language for Article J, which is the FY26 capital cleanup article. Actually, it shouldn't be FY20. Yeah, it is actually FY26. It's the, so that's the reallocating money from one place to the other. You also have language for the vacation buyout, the transition language to the accrual system. I think the only other item that you have not heard about is the Flat Hill Bridge eminent domain. I'm sorry, is there someone stuck in there?
I don't think so. I don't hear anybody, but it's not usually that slow.
Okay. Okay, we're going to just take a quick brief recess.